Why Faaves? Well, we need to know what adaptation we want. We want strength, which is force production. Who are we training? We're training the novice. Okay, this is our repetition continuum. And we will see that on the far end, like the 1 to 3, this is maximum force production rep ranges. This is more endurance, anaerobic endurance production. This is our perfect balance, which is 5, and the 8 to 12 is around the hypertrophy mark. And this 20s can also be hypertrophy for bodybuilders that train to that level. Now, the 1 to 3 is more force dependent. We'll see that all these levels, they have a metabolic and a structural and a neurological adaptation that happens to them. You'll see that with strength is more, the energy source is ATP-CP. The structural adaptation is more myofibrillar based. And the neurological, we'll see that the maximum motor unit recruitment happens at that 1 rep max. But the thing is, that needs to be trained. It needs to be trained by a novice. Cannot do it by definition. He can't. So he needs to know how to do that, and that takes. And not only knows how to do, he has to adapt his body to be able to do that, right? By doing correct form and by adapting himself with heavier and heavier and heavier loads, and he has to train into such a thing. So the novice doesn't really have a right. Well, there's no need for him to do 1 to 3. The hypertrophy 8 to 12 is the metabolic energy source is ATP-CP and or glycolytic sources, depending on how long the bout is. Once it starts going to the 1 to 3 minutes, it will be more in the glycolytic sources. Less than that, like we see with the ATCP, they're around about 12 seconds, between 12 and 1 minute. I don't know. Okay, structural, it's more focused on sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. He will also get stronger in regards to there'll probably be actinomycin things, adaptations, but the focus will be sarcoplasmic, which is basically all the rest of the muscle fiber, all the muscle cell out of the actinomycin and tighten basically the myofibrils. Okay, the neurological, there will be maximum recruitment, but that will depend on the weight and how close you get to failure. Okay, it's not necessarily force production; it's more on how close you get to failure. The novice limitation, okay, it's best to be used for assist and ancillary exercise like rows or curls. When the novice gets to a later stage and he gets more into intermediary, he can use higher rep schemes because he needs to grow more cross-sectional area, because motor unit recruitment has its limitations to a particular. It can be effective to a level, and then you just need to grow the muscle bigger in order to be able to get stronger. Again, anabolic, once you get past the 8 to 12 range, around the 20 range, this is now you're getting into the anabolic endurance, anaerobic endurance. The metabolic energy source is glycolytic. This is primarily a sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. That's just, by the way, for bodybuilders that have trained themselves to be able to do that. People that haven't trained themselves to be able to do that, I don't know if it will be really too helpful. It might even make him go backwards. Neurological, again, it's the same as the previous one. Maximum recruitment will depend on weight and how close you get to failure. This is a good rep scheme for bodybuilders that trained into this type of thing, or it's good for people that are training for local muscular endurance to be able to tolerate pain of intense efforts over 30 seconds for whatever, maybe sprints or the 100-meter dash, 300, 200, 400 meter dash, or whatever it is. Now you're using lightweight, so there's no strength gains. So again, so if we see that 1 is the most and 20 is like, so 1 is max